Stephen Jones, in the past you've been a senior coordinator in the left faction of the Labor Party. I wonder what you think of former Prime Minister's Kevin Rudd's calls this week for a full democratisation of the Labor Party.
Yeah, I support it. I think if we learn anything out of the last 12, 18 months, the membership participation in the ballot for our leader energised the party at exactly the time when we needed it. We had literally thousands of members joining the party and getting involved in the party because for the first time in our history they got a say in who our parliamentary leader was. New South Wales, that's followed suit, and I think it's been a good move. At a time when everybody thought the Labor Party was going to fall apart after, let's face it, a pretty tough election defeat, we actually came together. It's provided Bill Shorten with the stability and unity that he needs, and enables us to focus on the rotten job that the Abbott government is doing and to get the policies we need to face and be a competitive force at the next election. So I support what Kevin has said. I support the push for greater democratisation in the party.
What does it actually mean, though, full democratisation? Does it mean that caucus doesn't get a say in the leadership at all, that it's purely up to the party's rank and file?
Look, caucus will always have to have a say, and I think the model that we got at the moment, it probably needs some tweaking around the edges, but I think it's a good model. I think you still need to have an important voice for the parliamentary part of the party in determining or having a say in who the parliamentary leader is and who the senior members of the team are. But I think we cannot unscramble the egg. Members have got a taste of what participation and democracy feels like, and they don't want it to go backwards. And there is no one force within the party that's going to be able to unscramble that, and I think that's a good thing.
So what do you make then, of course, say by the TWU's Tony Sheldon for the leadership at the moment? It's half caucus, half rank and file. He's saying 1/3 the trade unions, 1/3 caucus, 1/3 rank and file. Is that even a possibility, do you think?
Look, Tony's an important thought leader in the party. On this one, I don't agree with him, though. I think that unions play a critical part in the Labor Party, and I come from a group that wants to ensure that we continue to have a very close and important institutional relationship with the union movement. But I have a problem with saying that we should hand over to a very small number of people a large role in determining who our elected representatives are. I think it would be much better if we are encouraging unions to get their members involved and active within the party and to have a direct vote. And I guess the concern I have is if we don't do it that way, if we just provide a small number of union officials with that role in pre-selection ballots for senators or for lower house members, then it takes away an incentive to have rank and file union members getting involved in the party and getting active.
If you're talking about democratisation of the Labor Party, that would also involve the deciding which delegates go to, say, national conference or state conference. Is that an area that needs reform?
Look, I think that's an area that we need to continue to look at. Some unions have direct elections for their conference delegations, others don't. I guess I err in favour of letting unions determine those sorts of arrangements, but I think the same thing applies as within the party. The more democracy and that sort of thing, the better.
Should there be more delegates from branches and less from unions?
Well, look, that's something we continually review. Over the last 50 years, we've changed that formula, and I think there's a lively debate going on in New South Wales about that formula at the moment. I guess it depends what the role of the National Conference and the State Conference is. I strongly support the arrangements we've got in place at the moment with the National Conference, where we have increased the number of rank and file participants from federal electoral councils. I think that is the right way to go, and I think we should see more of that.
I have seen speculation that for the first time since the early 1980s that the right's dominance of the conference may not happen this time around, and indeed it might be more balanced or even with a left majority. Is that, how do you read the numbers as they form?
Yeah, look, I think these things wax and wane over the years, and I think the descriptors of left and right don't always explain that much about the way people approach issues on the floor of conference. For some people, their state affiliation is stronger, for example, than whether they would describe themselves out of a left tendency or a right tendency within the party. And of course, many people come to those conferences unaligned. And I think that on the big debates, these things aren't determined by old-style factional allegiances, but by the party interest and the national interest. And we've had some really interesting debates that I've been heavily involved in over the years, whether it be around things like uranium or marriage equality, where the outcomes on those things have had nothing to do with people's factional alignment, although people from one group or another are maybe more likely to support a particular proposition. We've always drawn support and lost support from right across the party on those big debates.
So that trend towards less factional discipline, more fluid voting patterns, is that something, that trend you imagine we'll see continue at this year's conference?
Look, I think so, and I think that's a good thing for the debate. I make no bones about the fact about where I sit, but there's one thing that I'll always be determined to do, and that is to put the interests of the party and the nation ahead of any individual grouping within the party. I think it is a good thing that people with a similar view or a similar mindset get together and kick ideas around and find ways of pushing those ideas forward. That should be what is at the fore, and not the interests of backroom machinations and that sort of thing. I think what we've got to be focusing on at all of our conferences and in all of our forums within the party is what's in the party's interest and what's in the national's interest. How can we get the sort of progressive policy that has been the hallmark of Labor for over 100 years and what people are looking for in a Labor government and an alternative to Tony Abbott?